Welcome back to part 2 of our special series where we are listening in on the conversation that took place in celebration of Women's History Month as I moderated the 3rd annual Women in Leadership panel here at Kean University. We are picking up right where we left off. In our last episode, we talked about the start. Today, we're talking about the middle, the part of the journey where things get tough. Our panelists are diving deep into how they navigated setbacks, how they handled being the only in the room, and the importance of reaching back to lift others as they ascended. This is the heart of the climb. Let's jump back into the conversation. Okay, so Tiffany.
Yes.
Rapid change. We're all going through change. We've got technology changes. We've got AI. We've got, evolving workplace policies. Yes, this is Tiffany's question. It's AI.
You already asked her about this.
How are these shifts actually impacting the opportunities for women?
Yes.
Okay. And what skills does the next generation of women leaders need in order to be prepared for all of this?
So remember all those skills that they used to call soft, right? Creativity, strategic thinking, critical thinking, all of those skills, like technology is going to be taken over to some degree by AI. Let's just call it what it is. Those rote, like simple coding jobs, for instance, like if you want to be a senior software engineer, by all means. But if you're thinking, well, I'm just going to do, a little software engineering and do it at the low, do it at the sort of a intro level. All of those roles, AI is going to take over. They already have started taking those roles over. You've probably seen people, the jobs decreasing the number of employees they have because of AI, or they're leaning into AI and trying to see if AI can do this work. And if you all have used AI, then you know that, yes, it can definitely do some of the work that we have historically paid others to do. However, what AI can't do is it cannot really mimic the human presence in the discussion. It can pretend like it does. Because keep in mind, everybody thinks AI is thinking. It's thinking. It's not thinking. It's just analyzing old data, right? So it's scrubbing the web. It's going to places. It's looking for information. It's looking for already what's out there. It's not coming up with new things. It's not sort of the creativity behind, not that you can't ask it to. You can ask it to be creative, and it will. But you can also ask it how much of this is accurate and how much of this is not. And it'll tell you, oh, you wanted real information? I just made that up. I mean, it'll tell you, it hallucinates, right? So you really have to be thinking about how are you as an individual in your industry going to get in front of AI? It's this thing called AI integrator. It doesn't mean that you need to be a technologist. It doesn't mean that you need to start building models. It doesn't mean that you need to start writing in Python and coding. It means that you need to understand how AI will disintermediate your field. If you're in medicine, what is it going to do there? If you're in education, how is it going to impact the teachers, the students, et cetera there? Get in front of it. Know what it is. Learn how to use it. And learn what you can do to facilitate the use of it. Like it will be years before it's like operating on its own because we just don't have the infrastructure in place for that as a country. But what you can do is think strategically about how can you understand the role that AI will play in the space where you want to operate your career. Right? Because then you become what's called an AI integrator. You're thinking about AI, you know how to use it, you know where it's going to disintermediate, you know how to get in front of it, you can advise people on how to use it, how it's going to be impactful. Learn as much. I think people get scared of it and they're worried. I am asking you to do the opposite. Embrace it as something that is inevitable. It's coming. Hiding won't help. Picketing won't help. Protesting won't help. It's coming. So what are we as women going to do? we're going to do what we always do. We're going to get in front of it. We're going to learn about it. We're going to know how to use it. We're going to study it. And we're going to incorporate it into the way that we act, the way we behave, the way we shop, the way we answer questions. We're going to just make sure, like, all of the great inventions are probably going to come as a result of somebody thinking creatively around AI and how to use it from this point forward, right? So everybody in this room has that opportunity. So just don't let it scare you. Not that it shouldn't be scary, because I think it is. You know, there are biases that we have to think about, ways of engaging, and anytime any new technology comes along, there are nefarious, malicious actors that are out there trying to do things, you know, that are not so great. However, we are not those people, and we want to use it for good. It's here. It's being imposed on us. So you might as well lean in, figure it out, and just get used to using it in your space.
So I have a question to ask, but Dr. Warren, you look like you were chomping at the bit there.
I agree with her. Get on board. Don't be fearful about it. Things are going to happen. It's going to be some positive things in it, but it is going to need some human touch, especially in healthcare, because there's no way that a machine can tell you some of the lived experiences of my patients that come through the door that haven't had their medicine because they couldn't afford it or haven't seen their doctor for so many years, and now their numbers are crazy because they work double shifts and triple shifts and the doctors close at 4. So if they don't have that human aspect into how they're dealing with patients, it can't happen. So both is going to happen.
And get involved in spaces where you're training the system, right? Like the system needs input, and what goes in comes out, right? So make sure that you are in spaces where you are sort of driving the conversation, or at least a part of the conversation, contributing to the conversation around what data do we need to make sure that we are eliminating as much bias as possible. We're thinking creatively and holistically about this problem. We're triangulating the problem, like approaching it from a lot of different angles so that you can get a more authentic and accurate answer. Get involved in those conversations, because to the extent that you start to do that, then you're engaging with the direction in which AI will take. And that's important for all of us to do.
Dr. Warren, so my question for you is with regards to, as workplace expectations evolve, right? What are the different qualities or mindsets that women need to have to become successful leaders for the next decade? Qualities and mindset. Anything different?
I guess one of the things I think, even just for females, as we bridge and become the forefront, is confidence does not come before the opportunity. Confidence comes in the opportunity. And I think a lot of times as women, we're always waiting to be ready. And ready just never comes. And you'll never be ready until you're in it and have the growth and the failures and so forth. And then that's when the readiness comes. So that would be what I think we as women should be prepared for. Don't wait to be ready. Be ready all the time and just do it. And it will grow while you're doing it. It's one of the things I used to tell residents all the time who are, you could read that book all day long and you could pass the test question about what to look for in the patient. But until you are right there in the mix of it, you are never going to be ready. So I said, be ready.
And that is truly a mindset shift, right? Being able to operate and do it in the midst of being scared or fearful or feeling not ready, but you do it anyway. That is a complete mind shift. And that goes back to operating the muscle, right? That's a muscle that you need to develop, because you got to just kind of keep doing it again and again.
One thing I would like to add is that women, I found through years and years of hiring, is that women will see a job application and they will look over the job application and they don't meet every single criteria on the job application. They will not apply for the job. really, if you fit 60% of that job application, you should apply anyway, because you are going to bring a unique and differentiated perspective that someone may be looking for. So you shouldn't shy away just because you don't. And take a man can fill 20% of the qualification and he sends that application in anyway. So and it's true, they have confidence, and and so that's what we have to lean into, right? We have to really take the advantage, fill out that application anyway, get the feedback, and start doing that more so that we can get into more spaces.
So, Alexa, if you could go back to your college self here at Kean and give yourself one piece of guidance, what would it be?
I think it would be to advocate for yourself. No one's a bigger advocate than yourself. I think a lot of times you think that someone else in a leadership role will advocate for you and have conversations with leadership to help you move along in your career. But I think if I would have known and had the confidence earlier in my career to speak out a little bit more and to advocate for myself, I maybe would have grown a little bit faster in my career. Now that's something that I teach all of the people that work with me. Managing my seasonal interns is having being an advocate for yourself and speaking up when you have an opinion.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Warren, you may have sort of answered this already in your last question, but maybe you have a different thought as well to bring to it. What is one bold step that young women sometimes hesitate to take, but should anyway?
We are still the minority in a lot of spaces. And I know I've been a minority in a space as a female from the very beginning, from engineering to even medicine. And I think piggybacking on that, just having the confidence to open your mouth and not shy away from being the only one in the room, and saying what you feel. I think that's the big thing that we just do. We aren't always comfortable to say our piece. One, because we don't feel supported in those rooms because we're one of the only, whatever reason, but to have more confidence.
And I think getting out of your comfort zone is something that we need to do, because I remember kind of how I was even comfortable in public speaking was I was basically forced into doing something, and so I had to build the courage to do it. If I wasn't forced to do it, then I probably wouldn't be up here today
Mhm.
being in front of all these people, but, like, you just have to learn to do things that are out of your comfort zone because that'll just help you grow and evolve.
So, as we wrap up this portion, I just want to recap a few of the themes, right? And it all goes with our leadership toolkit. We got to build the muscle, whatever that muscle is. It's if it's advocating for ourselves, if it's speaking up when you notice the dynamic in the room is all headed towards that group think, if it's asking the questions, if it's operating even though you're scared, do it anyway. If it's technology, we all have concerns about AI. Well, how do you overcome some of those concerns? You learn about it, right? And maybe you become the specialist. Thank you, ladies. We are going to transition to Q&A, and we have 2 microphones set up right here. So you can stand, get in line, come to a mic, ask some questions.
So there are my experience, both in the corporate sector, and also somewhat in the higher education sector as well, is that there are a myriad of myths, uh, some stereotypical concepts about women in leadership. And for instance, women are too emotional. women are not intelligent enough, or women are too aggressive versus assertive. What has been your experience as women in leadership with those myths and concepts, and how did you navigate, or what challenges did you experience, or how did you navigate in those spaces with that? Thank you.
I hear aggressive all the time, and it really bothers me because I do feel if a male said that, would it be considered aggressive? I think it's just learning to manage relationships or managing personalities within your organization, and just trying to find a different approach, having conversations, and just trying to find a way for them to think differently is really what helped me. But I hear aggressive all the time, and it drives me nuts when I hear that.
I would say the key is to tell people you have to spoon feed people what you want them to think about you. This is not my story. This belongs to Carla Harris, who's a senior leader in financial services. But Carla tells a story about how when she went for one of her year-end reviews, she thought she was doing a great job. She had, accrued so many clients and closed so many deals. And she got to the end of the year and he gave her a review and he said, yeah, you're doing a pretty good job, Carla, but you're not tough enough. That you're not perceived as being tough. And she was like, oh really? Because I thought, I brought in all these deals, I'm killing the game, like what? And he said, no, people just don't see you as tough. And so she said to herself, from the next year, I'm going to spend telling people how tough I am. So she would go to a client meeting and she would come out of the meeting and they would say, oh, how was that meeting, Carla? And she would say, oh boy, I was really tough on him. I didn't let him get by. I did this and that. And she would throw into conversations about her or her deals, how tough she was, how dedicated she was, how, she pushed hard, like every single adjective that sort of describes someone being tough. And she said that she got to her review the next year and it was a different manager, by the way. So it wasn't even the same manager who had given her the "you're not tough enough" feedback. And she said the number one thing that people were saying about her clients and her colleagues, was that she was so tough, because she had basically spoon-fed them the things that she wanted them to say back about who she was. And so, yeah, she created the narrative, as Dr. Karma saying. And so that is what you have to do as you are going around. You're not just chit-chatting in the office. Spend that with your girlfriends on your chats. You are talking about who you are and how you want to be perceived and how you want to be seen, discreetly. It's not, you know how to do it. And so that's a very important lesson that she taught me a long time ago when I was at Morgan Stanley, about how you tell people who you are and make it come back to you.
Just quickly, because there are a lot of people standing, just know you're not going to change many people's thoughts already. I've been in those spaces. They're going to say those statements. They're going to have those ideas, but you keep pushing and you keep showing up and you keep doing your thing, because they can't fight what is productive and what is shown. They can only have personal opinions. Okay, so you just keep doing yours. And I've been around it. You can't change these people. They are the same.
Hi, good evening, and thank you so much for this panel. I was very much looking forward to it, and I haven't been disappointed. So thank you. I am an alum. I'm Dr. Juanita Soufflé, and I did my doctorate here at Kean University. My question is, in training not this generation, but the next generation, what would you have them do as a female in order to be able to be ready for the marketplace? And I mean, we've talked about soft skills and being ahead of the game. I'm talking about 15 years. If someone's going to be going into school now, what would the direction be in education for them to be successful? Because what I'm understanding is that the careers that are abounding for these young people who are coming up haven't even been created yet. So how do we need to help them to make right choices? They can pivot, but right choices in order to be able to get the most out of their life, okay, educationally. Thank you.
So, my perspective is that learning hard skills that are broadly applicable is very, very important, critically important. So, in my space, I tell everyone learn data. You don't need a big fancy tool. Get Excel, learn how to manipulate, wrangle, pull, organize, analyze data in Excel. You could do a 3-day, boot camp on Excel and be at the intermediate level pretty quickly. And that is a skill that you're going to use in every single field that you're in. If you want to do research, if you want to go into education, if you want to go into operations, into marketing, there's almost no field where you won't use that kind of broad skill. So these hard skills that are transferable and extrapolatable across industries and businesses are hard skills that I recommend people lean into. And you may not get them like in college because, some of the colleges are liberal arts schools that are really focused on the softer skills that used to be soft that are now so important. Those are important. But any place like I think this next generation, you know how it was in the olden days, you got the job, you kept the job. And even as I was coming up, they were like, oh, you're switching jobs a lot. And then I felt some kind of way like, oh, wait, I am switching jobs a lot, but so what? No one cares now. These kids, they're going to be switching jobs, boom, 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 doing this remotely, hybrid that, working over here. They're going to have a different sort of existence. And so what are those skills? And I'm coming up with the one that's in my field, data, technology. Not that you have to be a technologist, but you need to know how to speak those languages like data, AI, and technology. Those are broadly applicable. So all of those really sort of tangible skills that you can build, you should build those because you can take those with you, even as an influencer. You want to figure out how you're doing, how to compete in the influencing space. Data and analytics, those are the things that matter no matter what field you're in.
For me, I would say test taking skills. And I find that is probably the issue that I find in most candidates. I'm on the admissions committee at New Jersey Medical School, and I find that is the most challenging for most students. The MCAT exam, extrapolated, the LSAT, the GRE, whatever exam, learn how to take standardized test taking, because that's going to be the key to get your ticket in.
I wanted to add as well to answer your question. I believe entrepreneurial skills are critical. And that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, but you need to think like one. Even if you're in a corporate job or medical, with all of the innovation and the changes that our panelists talked about, you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset to be able to get through that. Because if AI is taking away the basic job functions, what are the critical thinking skills that the next generation has to have in order to be able to be successful?
Thank you.
Next question.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Philippe. I'm also an alumna from here, Kean University. Thank you for everything you guys have shared so far. I have a two-part question. I am creating a intergenerational eco-emotional literacy system that's goal is to shift epigenetics and provide holistic healing to communities. You guys mentioned being the first in your fields and being the only in the room. So I was looking forward to hearing you share your journeys and from your origin. What would you say the role of your origin and your environment played as far as you guys getting to where you are today? And the second part is being the first and being in those rooms and those spaces. Was there any women that you could name that you looked up to that maybe gave you some of the confidence you spoke about, or some of that, sharing your voice that you spoke about earlier?
I can easily answer that question. I grew up with a very strong mom. I grew up with parents who were revolutionaries. They were in the organization called National Organization for American Revolution. I was going to marches in New York and no more Nagasaki, no more Hiroshima. I grew up with a mom that taught me confidence. That didn't mean I had it all the time, but she gave me and told me what I needed to do when I'm in the room. She taught me from, the age of the same thing we do with our children. You walk in the room, presence, speak, hold your hand out, shake your hand. And so I had those lessons, and everybody doesn't have them. I'm thankful that I did. But that is what allowed me to survive in those spaces where I was alone, where I was by myself. And that is what I think we need to make sure that our generations have. That kind of teaching, that kind of leadership, so that when they are in those spaces, and let me just give this plug for HBCUs. When I went to an HBCU, that is what I was taught in my classrooms. That is why when I left and I went to General Motors and worked as an intern with students from MIT and from all these other schools that were considered very high, I never felt inferior. So we definitely have to make sure that our children, no matter who they are, have that type of confidence.
Alexa, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So I have two parents that did not go to college. My mom was born in Greece and owns her own business. So to your point, Dr. Warren, my mom was a very strong working woman. She owns a hair salon, still works now at the hair salon. We insist that she take some more time off to be with the grandkids, but she insists on working. Seeing her and how much she worked really helped me kind of strive how I wanted to be and pushed me along to, my mom said she always wanted me to have better than what she had. And I think that's ultimately what you want for your children as well. To your second question about were there people within the organization, I think I brought it up earlier. There were many women that I worked with that kind of helped me and tailor me to who I am today. And I praise their names to like the heavens because they really did help me grow. There were many times where I completely messed up and had no idea what I was doing, but they were so warm and helpful that I never felt scared to ask a question. And I think that's an important thing as a leader, to be approachable. And that was the one thing that I found so valuable, is that I was never afraid to mess up because I knew if I did, they would be there helping me along the way.
All right. Thank you. Next question.
I'm Nina Marie Rodriguez. I'm a student here at Kean. My question is mainly for Tiffany and Dr. Warren. In what ways does your personal intersectionality inspire or even impact your leadership specifically? Because not only are you the women in the room, but you're also of other minorities, and that is going to impact your leadership all the time.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I was just saying that in what ways does your personal intersectionality inspire or impact your leadership specifically?
I feel like I have to, because of the spaces that I have to be a little bit more visible, speaking louder, assertive. Those spaces are going to change. And in order for us to be able to survive those, we've got to get those qualities that allow us to be at the head and actually believe it from the beginning. That's what I did, believe that I had that, even though I didn't. Speak like I believed that, speak like I had that. And it's hard, don't get me wrong. Because of the color of my skin, I could not have certain, how do I say this? I can't come into the room and make them all fear me, but I still had to get them to respect me and support me. And that came through experiences of highs and lows. But yeah, you do have to remember who you are and where you are, and then try to use that to to do well in that environment, because otherwise it doesn't work well.
Okay, you're up.
Hi, my name is Emma Nellums. I'm a senior here at Kean University, and I also work for the Office of Belonging and Community Engagement. I want to thank you guys for coming to speak today. It's really empowering, and also it's nice to see women just in these roles that sometimes we don't see women all the time. And it gives people like me, and I think women my age, hope that we can get to the opportunities that you are in. A question I have, I wrote it down so I can remember. It's what's your advice for advocating for something you believe in when the people in charge don't fully support you?
So that happens all the time because we women have great ideas that they're not ready for yet. And I think what works really well, one strategy that works really well is if you get grassroots support for your idea. So you start socializing your idea with your peers. You get like people who have so-and-so's ear to get behind your idea. It's a little bit of a grassroots effort, right? And so by the time your idea goes up the ladder, you already have like the support of a lot of people who can, who will back you, who will say that it makes sense from their perspective. It takes a little bit more time, because it would be great if you could just have the idea and the CEO is like, great idea. Because once the CEO says it's a great idea, it's going to get done immediately. That happens occasionally, but that is not the norm. The norm is that you have a good idea, that you have to work as a salesperson almost to sell your idea, to get people to understand it, to explain it, to socialize it, and then slowly over time, your idea will gain traction and you can start, taking it up the ladder and sharing it more broadly. But that's just one strategy that works in my particular environment.
And I think, to add on that is just seeing how other departments in my work, how they benefit from that idea. So when everyone feels like they can benefit from an idea, like to your point, Tiffany, being a salesperson, that's essentially what you have to do sometimes is, pitch your idea and get people on board, not maybe in that meeting or in that broader setting, but behind the scenes.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my name is Emily Taveras. I'm a current student now here at Kean University. I'm a junior and also the junior class president under our Student Government Association. Like Emerald said, I wanted to thank you guys for your presence and kind of being an inspiration for the women on this campus today. My question was originally for Dr. Warren, but I feel like if I just like switch one word, it can apply to all three of you. And I hope you can answer it or feel apt to. It's what helped you separate the job, life, and who you are through your field and your pastimes. You had mentioned that you give back in your community often, and of course, spend time with your children as a mother. But being involved on campus also just doesn't leave a lot of room for, I guess you can say, pastimes, but just trying to put yourself in spaces that fulfill you the same way that you're hoping it fulfills your resume or whatever your future looks like just gets a little harder as college progresses, and I'm assuming the same for once you get into the workforce.
I think there is a balance for that, and it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out what do I do, what do I don't do. I'm sure there were some decisions that I made that probably weren't the greatest, but the main thing was focusing on what, because whatever you choose may not be the greatest on your resume, but it may be the greatest on this resume, which is your heart and what made you happy. And so sometimes we make decisions based on that, and that takes a more of a priority than everything else. And for me, I had to make the priority family and community versus everything that just was beneficial for a job, because you need wellness here. And if you don't have wellness here, everything else kind of falls short. And so it may not be what you think is the best decision, but it will be in the end.
Your question is really about how do you juggle like the responsibilities of life and like your personal career and your personal life, right? So I think that you have to find spaces where you can sort of be who you are, right? And that means like in work, maybe you belong to certain groups where you can be more of your authentic self. And that you are also thinking about how you spend your free time. You know what I mean? Like it does become complicated because like there was a period in my life where I went hard, right? I rarely saw my friends. I was going hard. I was really focused, but that's not sustainable. I'm not suggesting anyone do that. And maybe it helped me along the way. I'm not sure. But what I have learned over time is that you really need a little bit more of a balance in life, right? You have your emotional well-being. You don't want to burn yourself out. You want to have, your stability at home. And if you're burning yourself out like that, you're not being a top performer at home. And if you're spending all your time with your kids, you're not being a top performer at work, right? So it is really about how to Dr. Karma's point, how do you think strategically actually about your own life? Like treat your life like a business. How do you make sure that you get everything done that you need to do while maintaining the sort of the characteristics of who you are as an individual? Like I personally spend a lot of time with my friends, right? Even in the middle of the day, somebody comes in my office screaming at me. All I need to do is look at my chat with my friends because I know there's some funniness going on in there. And that makes me feel so much better, right? But it's like a small thing. It's like, yeah, I'm checking my chat at work, but I'm also like purposefully figuring out how to orchestrate time with my friends, even if it's around charitable things. Like we do things that are very charitable, but we do them together. So we have, we've kind of created this life where we're spending enough time with each other. We're spending time with our family. At this age, we're bringing our families together, so I think like you figure it out as you go through life. But I think if you, to Dr. Karma's point, if you are prioritizing both your well-being and your career, like you won't go wrong. You might not make every single decision the right decision every time, but you will learn how to like balance it out when you need to step back from one, when you need to let somebody else, lead in that space. And I think you will learn your rhythm. It is something you learn over time though. You don't just wake up one day and you just know how to balance all these things out. You kind of learn them through trial and error as you go through life.
Then maybe join some organizations that have your friends in it, that you guys have a great time, but that also is meaningful, that you put on your resume that, guess what, I started this blah, blah, blah organization and we work on this. But really, you having a good time with your friends. Yes. But when you wrote it down on your resume, it was the first organization that did this, so you find ways that allow you to still look good on paper, but still have a good time with yourself and maintain that mentality.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you all for your insightful questions. Thank you. And let's give it up again for our dynamic panelists and all of the information they shared. As we close out this live panel series, I'm struck by a common thread. Leadership isn't just about personal success. It's about collective progress. Each of these women proves that when we lead with purpose, we create a path for everyone following behind us. It was an honor to moderate this discussion and a privilege to share it with all of you here on the podcast. A special thank you to our panelists and the Kean community for such an inspiring event. Remember, the horizon is wide. The climb is worth it. We'll see you on the next time. Climb higher with her.